This is an open letter to Michelle Obama and other Western women that are concerned about the Iranian women and have, tweeted different messages to Iranian women with regards to, their protests and their support for protests. In specific, I am making this letter to Michelle Obama because I actually saw your message to the Iranian woman. Here's the thing. I also support the Iranian women and their quest to, to progress in terms of human rights and all of that. But it's the situation, the matter is a little more convoluted than it seems. It's a little more complex than just the matter of, we need human rights and this and that and the other. The matter of hijab and women being forced to cover themselves. Sometimes women actually want to cover themselves, sometimes they're being forced to, sometimes it's cultural norm that they're obligated to follow. Here's the thing, the situation with Iranian women, and in general Middle East, it's a little more complex. Let me put it this way. Let me start from the fact that Iran is considered as the plastic surgery capital of the world. The plastic surgery capital of the world, and specifically nose jobs, and which means a large percentage, which means there's a lot of demand and there is a lot of surgery and there's a lot of demand for nasal surgery and plastic surgery on the nose. And the objective of this plastic surgery on the nose, which a large percentage, I'm not, at all, I don't have the number in front of me, but you can do your own research, and this is actually a fact that Iran is considered as the plastic surgery capital of the world. And the objective of these surgeries, these nasal surgeries, is to make the nose look more like an Northern European nose, and that is sort of like push the front up, make it look a little more like a pig, as in like you can see the nostril. When you're looking at it straight, you can see the holes, the nostrils. So that is considered as, the beautiful, as a symbol of beauty, as a apex of beauty. How the Northern European noses are set up, small and pointed upward. And you add to this the fact that now a large percentage of Iranian girls and women, inject those toxic chemicals, the Botox and other toxic chemicals that is available into their lips in order to make them look big. And it's done in the West as well, but Iranian women, a larger percentage of Iranian women are actually involved with these matters, want to make themselves look more attractive by any means necessary. And, as they call it, cosmetics, any kind of cosmetics, they use a lot of cosmetics, layer upon layer upon layer upon layer to just beautify themselves. And and you think to yourself, and on the other hand, the men of these women, be it their fathers or their husbands or their brothers or their they are trying to cover these women up, trying their best to cover the women up. So you end up in a situation where the women are covered up mostly, but the piece of their body that they can show, which is their face, is overly made up, and all kinds of cosmetic surgery has been done to it, and all of that. And when you really dig deep in this situation with the Iranian women and Iranian men, when you really dig deep to find the main reason, you find out the main reason for all of this, both the women trying to beautify themselves, exaggerate their beauty, change themselves to look more attractive as per today's standards. Northern European nose and African lips, and then the men trying to cover them up and try to, cover up the beauty. When you really dig deep on this matter, you find out it has very little to do with the religion, and it has very little to do with, human rights or religion or anything of that sort. The fact is, it has to do mainly, the main reason for this crazy situation is the sense of insecurity that Iranians have. The Iranians are very insecure. So if you just visualize in a society in which men and women are very insecure, or both men, women, children, old people, young people, the whole society is very insecure, you will end up with, Iranian population in the way Iranian population behaves in specifically, and in Middle East in general, how the Middle Easterns behave in general. I give you other examples of, that basically proves the fact that all of these attributes of Iranian culture, Iranian behavior, in specific, and Middle Eastern behavior in general, it all can be attributed to the fact that they're very insecure. Insecure people, insecure about themselves, insecure about their culture, insecure about their history, insecure about their place in the world, insecure about everything. You name it, and the Middle Easterns in general and Iranians in specific are insecure about. Insecure economically, insecure about money, insecure about everything. Whatever insecurities are there in the West that the Western societies feel, Middle Easterners feel it exceptionally more, and Iranians even more. I give you other examples of it. Beside the fact that women try to, do their best to beautify themselves to the standards of the day, whatever today is considered as beautiful, they try to do whatever they can. I mean, she may not have a car, but she will have the nose job. She may not have enough money to, have a car, but she will do the nose job. She will do the thing with her lips, and she will do this and she will do that. And other matters include education. There is too much emphasis between Iranians of having a degree. Not the knowing part, knowing stuff is not as important, and having a piece of paper where somebody says that this woman or this man is worth something because of this piece of paper, a diploma. So they're very diploma, or that certification of them being somebody is very important to Iranians. For example, my sister actually stole my inheritance and my brother's inheritance so she can take that money and send her daughters to the most expensive education that our father's money could buy. It's sort of like, I don't care what kind of relationship I have with my brothers. What I do care is that my children get a certificate that I can show everybody and say we are somebody. My daughters are somebody. From their thirst for the degree in education, from their thirst for money. Iranians are very uptight about money, and when they don't have money, they pretend that they do, and when they do have money, they do everything they can to show that they do have money. The whole Middle Eastern stereotype of driving around in a Mercedes and gold chain around the neck, and a very expensive showering in very expensive colognes for the men, and the women having all kind of plastic surgery, trying to beautify themselves and bragging about their children having such and such a diplomas from such and such universities, bragging about in their life in general. So these are all signs of insecurity. These are all, you can attribute all of these signs to insecurity, a very deep sense of insecurity that the Iranians have. So, and when you follow the thread, you actually come and see, you reach the point that exactly you see what's going on in Iranian society. The women are trying to show more of themselves, stand out from the crowd because they feel insecure. Okay, they have done all the makeup they could. They have made up their faces the best way they could. Now they want to show more, which is their right. But at the same time, the men feel insecure about themselves, about their manhood, about their position in the society, their position in the family, about losing control over their family and over their females. And all of that is their insecurity at play. So you have women are insecure, they want to show more and stand out and feel better about themselves and get approval, and the men are again, they're insecure about their manhood, and they are insecure about their society. They're not sure whether the neighbor wants to sleep with their wife, and they prefer the neighbor not to see their wife because they're insecure about themselves. They feel their wife may betray them, or their daughter will may betray them, and the neighbor will betray them, and all of that comes from sense of insecurity. It's all related to insecurity. And on top of all of this, they're just, if you interact with the Iranian society, you see all signs of insecurity. Deep insecurity. For example, another example, Iranians are specifically known to be very nice to guests. Any travelers that ends up in Iran is amazed by how well they treat their guests and the visitors and the tourists, and they're amazed. And you can say that's out of goodness of the Iranian's heart. And also you can say that the Iranians, because of their sense of insecurity, are very, very much worried about how others think of them. So they do their best, they are the best host possible because of their sense of insecurity, because it really matters to them what other people think of them, and that by itself could be considered as the important reason for Iranians being nice to their guests and to their visitors and to the tourists, because they're insecure. So they put their best foot forward, and they're on their best behavior just to get approval from the foreigners. And that again works in terms of colonialism, that the pinkskins are very apt at. It works against the Iranians, because when you're worried about what the pinkskins think of you, then the pinkskins can play you in all kinds of ways. Uh, you know, uh, but in contrast, you see, for example, Japanese or the British. They really couldn't give a flying fuck what anybody thinks of them. They do their thing, and they don't care what other people think of them. And that by itself means these countries are very secure in themselves. It's a very secure culture. People are very secure within themselves, and not caring for other people, what other nations, other cultures, other people think of them, means they are a little immune. They get immunity against being colonized by others. When you're very very secure to yourself, you develop immunity towards other people, and you will not be manipulated so much by other people. But in contrast, if you care very much what other people think, you get to be other people tend to easily be able to manipulate you by saying one thing or another and trying to manipulate your behavior to their benefit. So here's the thing. The conclusion is simple. I think other cultures should be left to their own, and they should find their own way to progress. And the outside interference is not healthy in any way at all. Imagine this. Let's put it this way, Mrs. Obama. Imagine this, that up to 100 years ago, in the West, Christian, pink-skin, Western world, they were still, worried about women getting into bathing suits and going to swimming, and they had police measuring women's length of women's skirts. They didn't like women wearing skirts too short or even above the knee. So that's their pictures are their pictures that attest to this matter. And so we can conclude that over 100 years ago, maybe 150 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, women were very restricted in the West as well. So it has taken hundreds of years for the Western woman to be as as free, as liberated as we see today. Well, if you argue that a lot of problems in the Western society including the situation with divorces and people staying single for longer or never getting married, and the percentage of divorces, and lack of low numbers in reproduction, and all of that, many attributed to too much freedom for the women. And I'm not arguing that fact. I'm not qualified to argue those facts. But what I am saying is that the societies in the East should be left to navigate their own way, progress at their own speed. So what I was trying to say, that when the West, the pink-skinned Christian West, was so uptight about their women, as for example the Amish are, would somebody say that we should go liberate the Amish woman? Or would you have accepted, would the Western pinkskins would have accepted that the naked people of Polynesia, who nakedness is the norm to them, would the Western pinkskins accept that naked people of Polynesia start telling them that they should let their women be free and naked as their women are in Polynesia, or Micronesia, or Tahiti, or you see what I'm saying? Should one culture try to, advocate their own cultural standards for other cultures? And if that is acceptable, why hasn't the West kept quiet for the past 100 years since the Western woman has been set free? But the West has kept quiet with regards to Saudi Arabia and Egypt and Jordan and all these friendly Arab states that have restricted the women even more than the Iranians have. And why hasn't the West objected to any of that shenanigans? Why haven't the West been forcing Saudi Arabia to adapt the Western, standards for what is acceptable for women in their own country? Why is it that only those countries that fighting against colonialism, like Iran, are being pointed out, singled out as not giving human rights to their people, but it's an oppressive country like Jordan, an oppressive country like Egypt, and an oppressive country like Saudi Arabia is given a green light. It's like, you do whatever you feel like it. We pretend we don't see. So my point is this: we should not try to enforce or advocate too much our own standards for other cultures, because it would be a bit artificial. The cultures have to evolve and progress on their own, at their own time scale, not artificially being pushed or pulled in one way or another. And if the pink skin, which unfortunately your husband, not being a pink skin, advocated for a lot of continued advocating for in a lot of projects that pink skin were important to the pink skins. And the thing about Libya, and turning Libya into a shithole, and without roads and hospitals and schools and all of that, and intervening in Syria as well, and continuing this nonsense of intervention in other cultures, in other countries, under the pretext that we are doing it for their own good. These interventions increase the insecurity of these cultures, these countries, these people. This is what I'm trying to say. That instead of telling Iranian women that, oh yes, we are with you, go and rip another asshole for your government, and rip another asshole for your society, and burn down everything, and you should be just like Libya, and you should turn your country to just like Libya and burn everything down, and good for you. This is what freedom is all about. Instead of telling them, hey, you have to find a way to evolve and force your government to evolve. Instead of all of that, instead of attacking them militarily, instead of punishing everybody financially by blockading and sanctioning countries in order to force them to change what? Saudi Arabia has been treating its people like shit for since their beginning, since the British invented Saudi Arabia. Since then, they have been, mistreating their women and all their people. But nobody, sanctioned or embargoed Saudi Arabia in any way possible. So it's a bit hypocritical and to say that Iranian people are embargoed and sanctioned because their government is a little possessive over their people and they're insecure and they want to cover up their women. It's sort of like that's a matter that they should solve on their own time scale, in their own culture, between themselves. The men are insecure, the women are insecure, they're both insecure, and it's something that they have to figure out on their own. And the sanctions and embargoes increases the level of insecurity, both for the men and the women. It's your interventions are all bad. It doesn't let the societies progress naturally. But by embargoes and sanctions and embargoes and sanctions, you prevent the natural progress of societies. Because when the societies is under pressure of sanctions and embargoes, and there is a chance of being militarily attacked by the pinkskins, that society is going to lock down more, shut down, lock down, because you're increasing their sense of insecurity. The more pressure you put on the Iranian government, the Iranian people, by these sanctions and embargoes and sanctions and embargoes and threat of military attack, the more you're forcing their women under pressure, because the men feel more insecure. The society in general feel more insecure. And when the society feels more insecure, they cut down on people's freedoms. Have you noticed that when things get really bad in the society, they declare martial law, nobody can leave their house after 6 o'clock? You see, because the worse things get, the more things the governments tend to lock down things more. Lock the place down, cut back on people's freedoms. By these sanctions and embargoes and not talking to them and threat of military action, you're actually hurting Iranian women, because you're increasing the sense of insecurity in the society in general.